Okay, so we got our roof panel back from being blasted on the inside and got it all cleaned up. Got our panel, header panel and all that all cleaned up. It's ready to go. So we've got our 3/8" spacers blocks tack welded to the roof. That's going to give us our nice consistent spacing between the roof and the top of the door that we want. By having the doors finished, we now have a reference of where the top needs to be side to side, so everything fits perfectly. A couple of things we're going to do is just kind of sitting on top of the door. I've laid out a line here in the front, both sides. As you can see by looking at the angle of the door now, that this used to be at the same angle like this. So the door opening on the body now is coming down, so we've got to tilt this forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through here and up through here, and then this little bit of flange that's sticking down on the inside of the door, but I'm going to keep it together. This little bit of piece of metal right here is going to be what keeps this from falling off on the floor. So it's a little bitty piece. Another reason we cut it like this where we can slip it back is because these have a big brow on them, which looks fine if it's stock, but we're leaning it back a little bit and we're going to try to make it a little bit more racy looking. So if you pull that down, then that's going to get longer, so the material's got to go somewhere. And if we have it cut like this, it's going to allow it to slide underneath, and then we can trim it. When you plan your cuts, you know, instead of cutting it where you open it this way, then you got to put a little pie sliver in there. Cut it to where it goes back over itself. Then you don't have to try to weld a little sliver in there, which is always a disaster. You want everything to slide over, and then you can trim it. Slide it, trim, slide, trim. Okay, so you can see with it cut and it's just being held on by the skin right there. See how easy that is to rock that back? Oh, baby. It's a beautiful thing, and I'll have pieces laying all over the damn shop. So let's check the other side, see how it moves. Same way, it just rolls back in itself. Isn't that awesome? And then I want to get rid of this bulge in the middle. When I pull this down, that's going to get longer. See how that overlaps? It's just all the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so we got the front corners all tacked in. Got our angle going here a little bit. Looks good. Still loose up here, so we can push that down. When we push that down, this is going to overlap even more, and then we'll do a cut to do that weld right there. We made our cut and we leaned it back to get this angle on the roof. And also I made this fixture to hold the roof in place, take it off and on, and it'll go back pretty much to the same place. What I did was I clecoed my pieces of sheet metal angle on first, down here, up here, and then welded this in separately. So I knew it was already, the roof was centered, it was at the right height because of our door, so everything's good. So that's going to give us a reference so we can build our posts. We'll have the doors off, but you know, it'll keep us close, it keeps it pretty much centered. That I make a wooden template for every window that we chop, and this one has the center line. So I know I have my windshield in the center for the cowl. So the windshield posts on this car, most of them are pretty gnarly, but this one is for some reason exceptionally gnarly. And this is all factory stuff right here. You can see that that's just built up with weld on the outside, and then they just let it over it. So there's repairs got to be made there. We took a big section out right here because it was just hammered in and then let it over. So we got to repair this section here. So since there's so much repairs to do to the post and each side of the roof, I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut my tacks loose here. I'm going to put some witness marks just to keep me where I'm at. And then we're going to take it to the bench and we're going to cut it loose. And I'm going to separate the sides from this front part. Trying to make repairs to a big part that's flopping around, it's just easier to cut it up and weld it back together. One tip I can give you on metal shaping of any kind, you got to learn to TIG weld if you're going to do sheet metal. You don't need to worry about your hammers and dollies. You don't need to worry about having a power hammer. You don't need to worry about having a planishing hammer. You don't need to worry about kick shrinkers. First thing you've got to do is learn to weld, and learn to weld really good, because in order to make something you have to be able to weld it together. So it doesn't matter if you got every trick tool in the catalog in your shop and you can shape parts and pieces. If you can't weld, then you're wasting your time. Welding is the most important. Once you get comfortable with welding, the idea of cutting this thing up so you can work on it isn't a daunting task. That's the point I'm trying to make. So anyway, I'm gonna pull this roof off, this section of roof. You'll see that when I uncleco this will stay in place, and so we always have our reference we go right back to. And then we're gonna take this to the table and cut it apart, and then I'm gonna start fixing these posts. Obviously, it has to be shortened. We're gonna start getting everything fitted. Several years ago, when we were doing a lot of 32 3 windows, this is an original A-pillar skin, the outer skin. You can see the factory seam where they just welded them together and then bashed them in and then leaded them up. But we bondoed it up real nice, and then we made a hammer form using it as the template. This is made out of fiberglass and epoxy resin. It's really dense, and so because a couple of times we had to make new A-pillars, so we used this as the hammer form to drive the metal in to make the hammer form, and then the end result, after welding the pieces on and everything, would be this part here. That would be your outside, and this was your inside. So you'd hammer it down, and then you could transfer it back over. See, you could transfer it back over and work on hammering it some more to get these lines. So it was a back and forth process. These were part of the clamping blocks to hold everything in place. So you could clamp it down so you could, in different places. But anyway, so what I'd use these for now, though, more than anything, is not to make A-pillars, but to repair damaged A-pillars. So what I'm going to do here is I'm able to utilize it, clamp it to my header here, and then I'm going to be able to hammer form all this into the hammer form to get it all straight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut this thing off right here and then blend these two together and get this fitting really well, then get this welded, and then we'll fit all this up to the car, and then we're going to do our final trim for our chop down low here. All right, so we got a cleat back on our little fixture here. Now we can do our first initial checkup. This big piece of structure hasn't been leaned back yet, so it's not going to allow us to go all the way back like we need to. But check it out there. It's looking pretty good. I mean, when this leans back, it's going to be perfect. Okay, it's looking good. Our arc's still in the same place, you know. Looking good. So we got this post pretty good. I'm going to get the other side to this point and be sure everything's fitted really well first before start metal finishing all this. But that's looking pretty good. And you can see our little hammer forms brought that out real nice, and we'll be able to tune it up and make it even better. Nice transition. Obviously this piece has to get shortened however much it is, but it's going to work out really nice. It's going to look good. It's going to work good. Okay, we've done our preliminary fitting of our A-pillars to the upper header panel. Both sides shaped up pretty good. They're not completely finished in case we got to cut them and tweak them just a little bit. We're going to work on getting our inner structure piece, this piece here, reattached to the body. So it has to be chopped, so we've got to figure that out. Since the posts are leaned back on the A-pillars, well then the A-pillar structure itself has to get laid back. Now, they kind of did us a big favor on this car. Sometime throughout its life, somebody put some kind of weird custom dash in it, and they cut the main dash header out of it. This is the cowl brace, okay? And they've cut it out. So we're going to reinstall one, but for what we're doing, it's going to make it easy. Because I'm going to come right through here with my Sawzall, and I'm going to cut right down through here, and then across, and then this little piece will fall out, and then I'm going to cut across the back side and here, and then I can tweak this post back what little bit it needs to be. And then we'll go back and we'll fill in the back and on the sides where there's a little gap's going to be. Okay, so we got these A-pillars cut free, and they're flexible and they can move. Okay, and if you'll notice on this other door over here, I got a piece of 3/16 steel in here. Originally the door post was there, now it's here. You see on the inside it all lines up nice. What I'm going to do is I'll tape this piece of 3/16 to the inner door frame, okay, on both sides, and then we can clamp. We'll put a clamp on it right here. Hold it at the right angle, and then we take our piece, and what we're going to do is set this up here where it was, and now then we can measure this distance here, and it's about 2 1/4. So I'm going to cut 2 inches off of this to start with, and start sneaking it down until it gets in the right position here, because you got to remember there's a sheet metal thickness right here from that piece that goes in. So, and then we'll go down, and then our piece, our 3/16 will hold everything in alignment, and then we'll have a perfect door gap on the inside. And then once all this is back on, we're going to tack it real well, weld the post back together, and then we're going to start building the lower sections of the A-pillar and get those fitted, and then we'll be able to blend the two together for the final time, and then that'll have the windshield header and the A-pillars straightened out.